Hi, everyone. I hope you've all had an excellent Wednesday. I really appreciate you joining me tonight on our webinar about the Educational Access Scheme. We're hoping to give you the one-on-one on how to navigate your application and explain a little bit about what the EAS scheme does and who is it for and what's its purpose. And throughout this webinar, if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the comments. And we've got a team of people that will be able to answer those for you as we go. So please feel free to pop those questions down because we're here to help you. And the questions that you have, maybe other people have got as well. So pop them down in the comments. So I wanted to start off tonight by just giving you a little bit of background about what does UAC actually do? Because we do a lot of things, and I think sometimes it's great to get a bit of an understanding of all of the different things that we do. So one of the first things and one of the major things that a lot of applicants care about is that we process the applications for 30 different institutions. So we handle the admin and we look at how all of that happens and we process those. We also administer applications for access schemes. So schemes like EAS, which we're going to talk about, but also SRS, so the Schools Recommendation Scheme is another access scheme that we administer. And what I think is the most exciting thing that we do is each and every year we calculate the ATAR for all New South Wales HSC students. So we actually own the intellectual property of the ATAR, and each year we get all of that information and the ATAR is calculated, which I think is really cool. So now that I've kind of given a little bit of an explainer about who UAC is, what I wanted to do is jump in and start explaining a little bit about what EAS actually is, because it often can be talked about and can be a little bit confusing. There's lots of acronyms floating around. So I thought it might be best for us to start by explaining what actually is EAS. So EAS stands for the Educational Access Scheme. And what it does and what its purpose is to help students who have experienced significant challenges that have impacted on their education in year 11 and or year 12 or the equivalent. So if you're doing the IB, for example. EAS, essentially what it does is it can help unis offer you a place in a course, even if your ATAR is below the selection rank. So each university will have a selection rank for a course, and they'll have an ATAR associated with that. But what EAS can do is it can help give you that little bit of a boost to get the selection rank that you might need to get into your course. So a little bit more about and a little bit more detail about EAS is that there's categories, okay? So there's 9 broad categories. And within these broad categories, there's 26 specific circumstances that you may apply for consideration for. And really important to note, and something that I really wanted to stress, is that there's no limit to how many circumstances you can apply for. You should apply for all circumstances that are relevant to you. So if you tick off 5 of the 26 circumstances, you should apply for all of those, okay? There is no limit. So these broad categories are things like disrupted schooling. So that could be if you've attended 3 or more different schools in years 10, 11, and 12. Or we've then got financial hardship. And an example of that could be that you are receiving youth allowance or your family is receiving family tax benefit. Another category is severe family disruption. So that could be that maybe someone in your family has passed away, or it could be that there has been a divorce in your family during year 11 and 12. And it's really important, and I should have said this at the start of the slide, but these are things that have happened to you during year 11 and 12 or the equivalent. Another category is excessive family responsibilities. Maybe you're having to provide a lot of caring duties in your home because a parent or caregiver is ill and you're having to step up and take on a lot of those family responsibilities. The next category, English language difficulty. An example of this is if you've started year 11 or year 12 in Australia from overseas in a non-English speaking country. Another category is personal illness or disability. So you've suffered or had a long-term illness or disability that's had ongoing impacts on you. Refugee or humanitarian status in Australia. Your school environment, so whether you're in a rural, regional, or remote school, and the socioeconomic indices for areas. So these last two are a little bit different because at UAC here, we will automatically put in an application for those two categories if they are ones that apply to you. So you don't actually have to do anything for those. So let's have a chat about those because I think they're good ones for us to start by talking about. So, school environment. If you attend a rural, regional, or remote school, UAC will automatically generate an EAS application for you. So, as soon as you submit your undergraduate application, our system will recognize the school that you go to and it will automatically generate this EAS application for you. The other category that we automatically generate an application for is socioeconomic indices for areas. So if your residential address has been identified to be within the lowest 25 percentile of socioeconomic indices, we'll also automatically generate an application for you for EAS. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to take any actions here. But what we'll do is we'll do this from our end and you'll get an email within 24 hours of applying if you are eligible for this. So you don't have to do anything. The only time you would have to do anything for these is if you attended a rural, regional, or remote school for part of year 11 and 12, and you now currently go to a metropolitan school, you will have to submit this application. Okay. But if you are still enrolled in that school, you don't have to do anything. Okay. And the other thing I wanted to point out for the socioeconomic indices for areas, this is your residential address. Okay. And once you've submitted your application, no reassessment of addresses will occur. Okay. So the address you put in your application, the address that you live at, is the address that will be assessed. Okay. So the next thing that's really important to get an understanding of is who actually can apply for EAS, okay? So the first thing, you must have submitted a UAC undergraduate application, okay? You need to have submitted that first for us, and then you can go through and do your EAS application. And the reason for this is that these two applications are interlinked, okay? So without the undergraduate application, there's nowhere for the EAS application to sit. So that's why you have to have submitted that UAC undergraduate application first. You also need to be an Australian or New Zealand citizen or a permanent resident, including humanitarian visa holders. Okay, so they're the two criteria that you need to be able to meet, as well as obviously meeting the criteria for EAS. Unfortunately, international students are not eligible to apply for EAS, so please keep that in mind. Okay, so it's all well and good to know about these and what it actually is, but how do you actually apply for it? Because you need to know how to apply to be able to access the scheme. So your first step is that you need to submit your UAC undergraduate application. Please remember that. You've got to submit that for your EAS application to work. What will happen is once you've done that, there'll be a button that pops up that says apply for EAS in your UAC account. Now you can do this as soon as you've submitted your undergraduate application, or if you don't have the time when you do that initial application, just log back into your UAC application and that button will be there. What you'll then do is you'll choose the circumstances that are relevant to you, remembering that you can choose more than one circumstance. Select all that are relevant to you because they're there for a reason. And if they apply to you, make sure that you do put in an application for them. So these will come up with some really short questions where it might be a yes or a no. They're just kind of click a box questions. So you'll do that and you'll submit that. What that will then do is it will take you to another page that will give you a link to download a documents package. Now, this is where the detail comes into it, okay? So it's really important that you download these document packages for the circumstances that are relevant to you, and you need to make sure you read through that carefully and complete all of the things that it's asking you to do. So it might be that you need to write statements or collect evidence. Okay, all of the detail will be spelt out for you, but make sure you read it carefully. Once you've got all of that stuff together, what you need to do is you need to upload the required documents and statements by the relevant deadlines. Okay, and as we go through this, I've got a slide that's got the relevant deadlines for this year. So for the 2025 applications. But if you're a future student or a future applicant, those dates for 2026 come out on our website in April, but I'll remind you about that as we get through the presentation. Okay, so some common documents you might need. So because we do have a process where we go through these applications, sometimes you need certain statements to support your application, certain evidence, okay? So there's 3 really common ones that you might need to provide. So the first one is an applicant statement. Now, this is something written by you in your own words, okay, where you're explaining the impact that it's had on you. Again, the document package will really clearly explain what you need to do. So don't worry about that. It is really clearly explained. But basically, it's just something written by you in your own words. It doesn't need to be fancy. It doesn't need to be really technical, but it's you telling your story, okay, and how it's impacted on you. The next really common document that you might need to provide is an educational impact statement. So this is written by a responsible person who can comment on the impact of your circumstances on your education. And this is really important. It's got to be someone that can talk about the impact of your circumstances on your education. So really good people to fill this out might be your careers advisor at school, maybe your year advisor or your principal, okay, for those who are our current students. Okay, it's really important to note too that the person who writes this educational impact statement can't be someone related to you. Okay, if it's someone related to you, it won't be accepted. It needs to be someone not related to you, okay, that can comment on the impact of your circumstances on your education. The other really common document that you may need to provide is a medical impact statement, okay? So this is if you're applying for the circumstance of personal illness or disability, so P01A. It'll clearly explain kind of the types of people that can fill this out for you, but it needs to be completed by a registered health practitioner who is treating your medical condition or disability, okay? And again, this person can't be someone that's related to you, and it needs to be someone different from the person who's written your educational impact statement. They can't be completed by the same person. They need to be 2 different people, okay? And again, that's talking about the impact of your medical condition or disability on your education. So, the participating institutions. So we have a list of institutions on this screen here who participate in this scheme. So important to note what institutions participate and what don't. Okay, this information is on our website, and on one of the latest slides, I've got a QR code that will take you to our website. So if you want to have a look at in more detail about what institutions participate, feel free to do that, or you can just take a picture of this slide because it's important for you to be across which institutions participate. Now, one really important note that I wanted to raise is that if you are not a current Year 12 student or not someone who is a recent school graduate, if you have completed some study at university, whether that's a semester or a year at university, some institutions won't consider you for EAS anymore. And again, this information in more detail is available on our website, or feel free to pop a question in the chat and we'll be able to give you some of these institution details. But if you have completed some study at a university level, some of these institutions won't consider EAS for you. Just something to be aware of. Okay. So, what are the outcomes of if you're deemed to be eligible? So, if you're eligible for EAS, an institution can increase your selection rank by awarding adjustment factors. So, adjustment factors can sometimes be referred to as bonus points. Okay. What they do is they can provide those extra points needed to help you get into your desired course. So, for example, maybe the selection rank for your course is a 72 and you got a 70, but you were eligible for some EAS adjustment factors. That could bring you up to that 72 to get you into your desired course. Okay. Again, important to have a look into the different institutions because each institution has its own policy on how EAS is applied. And again, these details are on our website and you can access that via the QR code in the later slides. But here at UAC, we assess all applications in the same way. So we look at each application as an individual in a neutral way. But then, it's important that you have a look on our website for some of the institution details on how they deal with EAS. So, a really important thing that I want to make quite clear about how EAS works. EAS doesn't increase your ATAR, and I really want you to remember that. It can only increase your selection rank. Your ATAR will remain the same, but your selection rank may be adjusted to make you more competitive for entry into a course. And you'll notice that I said that word competitive, okay? EAS doesn't guarantee you entry into your selected course. It can just help give you maybe that little bit of a boost to help make you more competitive to get that place. It doesn't guarantee entry, but it can give you that little boost that might help you. At UEC, we can't provide information on how many adjustment factors you will receive. You'll just receive a letter when ATARs come out if you are a school leaver. It's a little bit different if you're not a school leaver, and I'll explain that in a minute. You'll get that letter on the day that ATARs are released, and that will just tell you what institutions are considering your EAS application. You won't get a number of how many adjustment factors, okay? If you're not a school leaver, if you're a non-school leaver, you will get this letter once we've processed your application. So you're not waiting until that date. As soon as we've processed it, we'll communicate that letter out to you. Okay. So a couple of frequently asked questions that me and the team I work with get, and even our call center staff get, our customer service team. And I know I've said it before, but I really want to drill this in, is that can you apply for more than one EAS circumstance? Yes. If you are eligible for more than one circumstance, apply for them all. They exist for a reason, and EAS exists to help support you if you've experienced these significant challenges and circumstances. Okay, so if more than one is relevant, please apply. Okay. How many adjustment factors, points will I receive? Again, to just make this really clear, this information is not shared. Even at UAC, we don't know. But the most important thing for you to remember, if you're thinking about adjustment factors, you still need to be close, okay, to the selection rank needed. It's not going to increase your selection rank by 1,000,000 points, okay? It's generally just a little boost that can help make you competitive. So don't think about it as, you can relax and not do anything. Your adjustment factors will get you in. That's not the case. You still need to compete for a place in your course. It's just a little boost, okay? If I change my address, will I get the automatic EAS adjustments? No. Like I said earlier, reassessment of addresses will not occur after your undergraduate application has been submitted. And it's really important. It's your residential address, where you live, okay? but it will not be reassessed. Even if you genuinely move, okay? It's what is put on your application the date you submit it. Okay. I'm applying directly to my institution. How do I do my EAS application? Unfortunately, if you are only applying directly to your institution, you cannot apply for EAS. And that's one of the benefits of submitting a application via UAC is you are then able to do an EAS application, okay, to get some of those adjustment factors if you're eligible, okay? So you need to have first completed the UAC undergraduate application. When will you know if your EAS application has been approved? If you are a current Year 12 student, you will find out on the 18th of December 2025. If you are a non-school leaver, you'll find out as soon as we've processed your application. And I know that some of you who might be watching might be current Year 11 students, maybe Year 10 students. In April each year, we release these dates. So make sure in April you're checking our website regularly because we'll upload those key dates on our website. Okay, and that can be found in the top right-hand corner of our website. There's a little button that will say key dates. And as soon as those dates are finalized in April, they'll be up on the website for you to access. Okay, another question we get is, will my EAS application be assessed if I don't upload the documents? No. Okay, you need to upload all the documents outlined in the documents package you download, because without those documents, we don't have anything to assess. So those documents need to be uploaded, and until they're uploaded, we can't process your application, okay? So please make sure that you get those documents uploaded by the relevant key deadlines, okay? Because we want, if you're eligible for EAS, to be able to process your application. So make sure you do upload those documents. Okay. Will all institutions give me the same adjustment? This is a question that we get a lot, okay? UAC assesses all EAS applications in the same way, using the same guidelines and the same criteria. However, each institution has its own policy on how EAS applications are used when making offers. So again, my suggestion would be is if you want some of that information, to contact the institution directly, and they should be able to give you a little bit more information about how they themselves use the EAS application. Okay, but at UAC, we process them all in the same way using the same guidelines. Okay, but we don't know what adjustment you'll get at the different institutions, so you'll have to contact them directly. And I know I said this earlier, but it's one that I want to just draw your attention to again is I moved from a rural, regional, or remote school during year 11 and 12. Will my EAS still be automatically generated? It won't, okay? You need to manually apply if you attended one of these schools during year 11 or year 12 and have since transferred to a school in a metropolitan area, okay? Everybody else, if you're still at that school, it will automatically do it for you. The only people who need to apply for that one is if you've moved to a metropolitan school during year 11 or year 12. Okay. All right, so some key dates. Now for our current year 12s, what I want you to do is I want you to take a picture of this slide, okay? Put reminders in your calendar. Make sure you get this done, okay? Because we want you to have all of your documentation submitted by the right dates, okay? So that your EAS can be considered in all of the rounds. But for our non-current undergraduate applicants, or this obviously is for our any current undergraduate applicant, but for those of you who are considering applying in 2026, again, check our website in April, okay? Because that's when the key dates will be released for 2026, okay? The 2026-2027 cycle, okay? But for those of you who are applying currently, these are the key dates you need to remember. So the 18th of November 2025 is the closing date for EAS applications for December round 2, okay? So that's your main ATAR offer round. So you really want to make sure that you get these documents in time so that your EAS can be considered for those offer rounds, okay? Your eligibility letter will come out on the 18th of December 2025. Unless you are a non-school leaver, yours will come to you as soon as it's been processed. December 24th is the closing date for EAS applications for January round 1. And then the 6th of February is the closing date for EAS applications for semester 1 2026. So my advice for our current applicants is make sure that you get your documents in by that 18th of November date. Set a reminder, write yourself a note, because we want to be able to get that EAS application processed for you so it can be considered in all of those offer rounds. So for more information, if you scan this QR code on the screen, that will take you to the EAS section on our website. That has all of the information that you could want, okay? So scan that and that will take you to that section of the website. Or if you have a really specific question or a question that you really want a little bit more help with, there's 2 email addresses on the screen there. So ce@uac.edu.au will come to me and the lovely team I work with, and we'll be able to get back to you with some information. Or equity@uac.edu.au will go through to our access team who look after our EAS process and applications. Okay, so you can send an email to either of those email addresses if you have a specific question that you want a little bit more help with, but that QR code will take you to the section on our website that has all of the information. Okay. I'd also like to ask you to, if you would like to, and you want to get some more information, to follow us on our social channels. Okay, so we put out content with lots of information all the time across these channels. Our team in particular, we like to do lots of webinars on our UAC digital channel. So it would be great if you wanted to give that a follow as well as any of our other social channels, so that you can get all of the information that you need and that you want. Now, I know that some of you have been putting questions in the chat. If we haven't answered your question during tonight's webinar, please don't worry. We will answer all of your questions over the next day or so. So don't worry, we will get back to you, okay? I really want to thank you all for spending part of your Wednesday evening with me, learning all about EAS. It's been lovely to spend this time with you. And please get in touch if you need anything or you have any further questions. Thank you so much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your night.